The loneliness did not begin when people left. It began long before that, in those quiet moments when you were standing in a room full of people and still felt unseen. It began when you realized that even when you smiled, participated, helped, listened, and gave your best, there was still a strange distance between you and the world around you. It was not always dramatic. Most of the time it was subtle. A feeling, a quiet awareness that something about your experience was different. You learned how to blend in. You learned how to act normal. You learned how to participate in conversations and gatherings. Yet somewhere deep inside, there remained the feeling that you were standing on the outside looking in. Many people who carry a deep sense of purpose know this feeling well. They walk through life surrounded by others, yet feel disconnected in ways they cannot fully explain. They often spend years wondering what is wrong with them. They question their personality. They question their worth. They question whether they somehow failed to become the person everyone else expected them to be. What makes the burden heavier is that most people never see this struggle. They see your strength. They see your ability to keep going. They see your calm presence. They see your resilience. What they do not see are the silent battles. They do not see the moments when you wondered why relationships felt harder than they seemed for everyone else. They do not see the times you felt forgotten, overlooked, or misunderstood. They do not see the weight of carrying a heart that longs for connection while constantly feeling out of place. If this has been part of your story, there is something important you need to remember. Feeling different does not mean something is wrong with you. Feeling like an outsider does not mean you are broken. Sometimes the people who feel most disconnected from the crowd are the very people who are being shaped by experiences that require a different path. Some people were never meant to find their identity in fitting in. Some people were never meant to measure their worth by popularity, approval, or acceptance. Their journey leads them somewhere deeper. The difficult part is that this truth often reveals itself slowly. During the process, all you see is the loneliness. All you feel is the distance. All you notice is the rejection. You remember the friendships that faded. You remember the invitations that never came. You remember the moments when people misunderstood your intentions. You remember being judged for being too quiet, too thoughtful, too sensitive, too serious, or simply too different. Over time, those experiences can begin to shape the way you see yourself. They can make you believe that you are somehow less valuable than others. They can make you wonder whether you deserve belonging at all. Yet some of the strongest people in the world have walked through exactly those seasons. Some of the most compassionate hearts were forged in isolation. Some of the deepest wells of wisdom were developed during years when a person felt alone. The truth is that suffering has a way of teaching lessons that comfort never could. It develops empathy. It develops patience. It develops understanding. It develops strength that cannot be measured from the outside. You carried burdens that few people ever noticed. You kept showing up when you were exhausted. You kept being kind even when kindness was not returned. You kept moving forward even when nobody seemed to appreciate the effort it took just to get through another day. That matters more than you realize. The fact that you are still standing says more about your strength than you know. There were moments when giving up would have been easier. There were seasons when discouragement seemed stronger than hope. There were nights when the future looked uncertain and the path ahead felt hidden. Yet something inside you kept moving forward. That strength was not an accident. It was being developed little by little through every challenge, every disappointment, every setback, and every lonely season. Many people who feel like outsiders spend years searching for a place where they finally belong. They imagine that one day they will enter the perfect environment, meet the perfect people, and suddenly everything will make sense. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes meaningful relationships arrive. Sometimes new opportunities emerge. Sometimes life opens doors that were previously closed. But there is another kind of belonging that often comes first. It is the moment when you stop fighting who you are. It is the moment when you stop apologizing for your depth, your sensitivity, your faith, your compassion, your resilience, and your unique perspective. It is the moment when you realize that your value does not depend on whether everyone understands you. Not everyone will understand your journey because not everyone has lived your experiences. Not everyone will understand your heart because not everyone has carried your burdens. Not everyone will understand your faith, because not everyone has survived the battles that brought you closer to God. The seasons that tested you were also shaping who you were becoming. The tears that nobody noticed were not wasted. The prayers whispered in quiet moments were not ignored. God saw the pain that others overlooked. God saw the sacrifices that received no applause. God saw the courage it took to keep believing when circumstances gave you every reason to stop. There is comfort in knowing that your story has never been invisible to Him. Even during the seasons when you felt forgotten by people, you were not forgotten by God. Even during the times when doors closed unexpectedly, your future was not abandoned. Even during the moments when loneliness felt overwhelming, your life still carried meaning and purpose. Sometimes the very experiences that make you feel different are preparing you for responsibilities, relationships, and opportunities that require a different kind of strength. A person who has never experienced rejection often struggles to understand someone who feels unwanted. A person who has never known loneliness often struggles to comfort someone who feels alone. But you understand. You know what those feelings are like. You know what it means to carry invisible burdens. You know what it means to keep going when nobody sees the effort. That understanding becomes a gift. It becomes part of the reason your story matters. It becomes part of the reason your presence brings comfort to others. Your kindness cost you more than most people will ever understand. There were times when you gave compassion while carrying pain yourself. There were moments when you encouraged others while silently fighting your own battles. There were seasons when you extended grace to people who never realized how much strength it required. Those choices were not meaningless. They reveal the character that hardship helped build. The world often celebrates loud achievements, visible success, and public recognition. Yet some of the most important victories happen in silence. Some of your greatest victories happened when nobody was watching. They happened when you chose hope instead of bitterness. They happened when you chose faith instead of despair. They happened when you chose to keep moving forward despite every reason to quit. Those victories matter. They are evidence of a strength that cannot be taken away by circumstances. The outsider feeling may not disappear overnight. There may still be moments when you wonder where you fit. There may still be seasons when you feel different from the people around you. But there is a difference between feeling different and being without value. There is a difference between standing apart and being abandoned. There is a difference between walking a unique path and walking a meaningless one. Your path has meaning. Your experiences have meaning. Your perseverance has meaning. Your story has value, even if it did not unfold the way you expected. The chapters that felt empty are not the entire story. The disappointments are not the final word. The loneliness is not your identity. There is something deeply valuable within you that circumstances could not destroy and rejection could not erase. That value has been there all along. It was there during the hardest days. It was there during the moments of doubt. It was there when nobody recognized it. It remains there now. If you have spent years feeling like an outsider everywhere you go, remember this. Some people spend their entire lives trying to become someone else in order to be accepted. Your journey may be teaching you something different. It may be teaching you that true peace comes when you finally recognize the worth that was already within you. It may be teaching you that your purpose is bigger than popularity, deeper than approval, and stronger than rejection. It may be teaching you that being different is not a flaw. It is simply part of the unique story God is writing through your life. If this message spoke to your heart and reminded you that your struggles have not been meaningless, subscribe to the channel and continue this journey of faith, healing, and encouragement with us. Together we can reflect on the strength that grows through difficult seasons and the purpose that often reveals itself when we need hope the most. There comes a point in the life of many people who have always felt like outsiders when they stop asking why they are different and begin discovering what their difference has been teaching them all along. This realization rarely arrives during moments of comfort. It usually appears after years of disappointment, after countless attempts to fit into places that never felt right, after trying to earn acceptance from people who could never fully understand the depth of what was happening inside them. For a long time it can seem as though life is moving everyone else forward while you remain standing still. You watch others find their place, build connections, join groups, and appear comfortable in environments that leave you feeling exhausted or disconnected. You begin to wonder whether you missed something important. You begin to wonder whether everyone else received a map that somehow never reached you. Yet what often goes unnoticed is that many of the people who seem perfectly connected are fighting battles of their own. Many are searching for meaning in ways that are invisible from the outside. Many are carrying fears they never speak about. The difference is that your struggle has often been impossible to ignore because it has touched one of the deepest human needs, the need to belong. When belonging feels uncertain, it can affect nearly every area of life. It can influence confidence, relationships, decisions, and even faith. It can make simple situations feel heavier than they appear. It can create a constant awareness that you are somehow standing a few steps away from everyone else. Yet through that struggle, something remarkable has been happening within you. Every season that forced you to stand alone has also taught you how to survive without constant validation. Every disappointment has shown you that your identity cannot depend entirely on the opinions of others. Every rejection has challenged you to discover value that comes from within rather than from outside approval. These lessons are not easy. In fact, they are often painful. But they create a strength that many people never have the opportunity to develop. There is a quiet resilience that forms inside someone who continues moving forward despite feeling misunderstood. There is a depth of character that emerges when a person keeps choosing kindness after experiencing rejection. There is wisdom that grows when someone learns to trust God, even when the reasons behind a difficult season remain hidden. You may not always recognize these qualities in yourself because you have lived with them for so long. You may see only the scars while overlooking the strength that formed around them. You may focus on the losses while forgetting the endurance that carried you through them. Yet the endurance is there, the wisdom is there, the growth is there. Think about all the challenges you have survived that once seemed impossible. Think about the moments when you believed you could not handle another disappointment, another setback, another lonely season. Somehow you continued. Somehow you found the courage to take another step. Somehow you found enough faith to keep believing that life could become more meaningful than what you were experiencing in that moment. That strength did not appear overnight. It was built through every obstacle you faced. The world often overlooks quiet perseverance because it is not dramatic. It does not make headlines. It does not attract attention. Yet quiet perseverance changes people in powerful ways. It teaches patience. It teaches compassion. It teaches endurance. It creates individuals who understand suffering without becoming consumed by it. It creates people who can offer comfort because they have walked through pain themselves. Some of the most encouraging individuals are those who spent years feeling discouraged. Some of the most understanding people are those who spent years feeling misunderstood. Some of the most compassionate hearts belong to those who know exactly what loneliness feels like. Your experiences have given you perspectives that cannot be learned from books or acquired through comfort. They have given you the ability to recognize pain behind a smile. They have given you the ability to understand silent struggles. They have given you the ability to extend grace when others are quick to judge. Those qualities matter. They are part of the reason your journey has value. Not every battle you fought was in vain. Not every difficult season was meaningless. Some of the hardest chapters of your life were preparing qualities within you that will continue serving a purpose long after the pain itself has passed. There are people who will one day benefit from the wisdom you gained through hardship. There are conversations you will have that carry weight because you understand what it means to feel lost. There are moments when your presence alone will bring comfort because others sense that you understand their struggles. Many individuals who feel like outsiders assume their loneliness is evidence that they have been forgotten. Yet sometimes isolation reveals truths that constant distraction would never allow a person to discover. In quiet seasons, priorities become clearer, values become stronger, faith often grows deeper, character becomes more defined. This does not mean loneliness is easy. It does not mean pain should be celebrated. It simply means that difficult seasons can produce something valuable even when they feel unfair. Throughout history, many people experienced periods when they felt separated from the crowd. They walked paths that others did not understand. They endured criticism, misunderstanding, and rejection. Yet those same experiences often helped shape their purpose. The distance that once felt painful eventually became part of their preparation. The same can be true for you. The very things that made you feel different may be helping develop qualities that will matter greatly in the years ahead. You are worth far more than the moments that tried to make you feel small. The opinions that underestimated you do not define you. The people who failed to recognize your value do not determine your worth. The disappointments that wounded you do not decide your future. There is something within you that remains untouched by all of those experiences. There is dignity within you. There is strength within you. There is value within you. There is a purpose within you that cannot be erased simply because others failed to see it. One of the most difficult lessons for people who feel like outsiders is learning that recognition is not always immediate. Sometimes the qualities that matter most are invisible for a season. Patience is invisible. Character is invisible. Integrity is often invisible. Faith is invisible. Yet these are the very qualities that often create the strongest foundations. The world tends to celebrate what can be seen quickly, but lasting growth usually happens quietly. The roots of a tree grow beneath the surface long before anyone notices its height. In a similar way, many of the most important developments in your life may have occurred during seasons when it seemed as though nothing was happening. God saw the tears that nobody else noticed. God saw the moments when you felt discouraged. God saw the prayers that were whispered in private. God saw every effort you made to keep going when life felt heavy. Those moments mattered. They were not ignored. They were not forgotten. Even when answers seemed delayed, your faith was not wasted. Even when the future felt uncertain, your story was still moving forward. There is a tendency to look back on difficult seasons and see only pain. Yet when enough time passes, many people begin noticing something else. They begin noticing the growth that occurred during those seasons. They begin noticing the strength that developed through hardship. They begin noticing the wisdom that emerged through struggle. They begin realizing that the chapters they once wanted to erase became some of the most meaningful parts of their story. This does not remove the pain, but it adds purpose to it. Purpose changes the way we understand suffering. It reminds us that difficult times do not have the authority to define our destiny. They are chapters, not conclusions. They are seasons, not identities. You are not simply the person who felt rejected. You are not simply the person who felt different. You are not simply the person who felt alone. You are also the person who endured. You are the person who kept believing. You are the person who continued moving forward. You are the person who developed strength through circumstances that could have created bitterness, but instead helped create wisdom. The fact that you are still here says something important about your resilience. The fact that you still care, still hope, still believe, and still seek meaning reveals a strength that many people underestimate. There is a strength within you that kept moving forward, even on your darkest days. There is a strength within you that survived seasons you never imagined surviving. There is a strength within you that continues to grow, even now. The outsider feeling may have shaped part of your journey, but it is not the whole story. There are still chapters ahead. There are still opportunities ahead. There are still moments of connection, healing, and growth ahead. Your story is still unfolding. Your purpose is still unfolding. The future still contains possibilities that you cannot fully see from where you stand today. If these words encouraged you and helped you see your journey through a lens of hope rather than discouragement, subscribe to the channel and continue walking with a community focused on faith, resilience, healing, and purpose. Sometimes the reminders we need most arrive during the seasons when we feel most alone, and there is encouragement still waiting ahead. Perhaps one of the greatest misunderstandings about feeling like an outsider is the belief that it means you have failed to find your place in the world. For years, many people carry this assumption without ever questioning it. They believe that if they were more outgoing, more confident, more successful, more accepted or more understood, the feeling would disappear. They spend enormous amounts of energy trying to become versions of themselves that seem easier for others to accept. They adjust their personality. They hide parts of their heart. They silence their opinions. They lower their expectations. They minimize their dreams. They become experts at adapting to environments that never truly feel like home. Yet despite all those efforts, the emptiness often remains. The reason is that the deepest form of belonging was never meant to come from pretending to be someone else. Real belonging begins when a person finally stops running from who they are. It begins when they recognize that their worth is not determined by popularity, approval, status, or recognition. It begins when they understand that their value existed long before anyone acknowledged it. Many people who have felt like outsiders throughout life have spent years focusing on what they lacked. They focused on the friendships that never developed. They focused on the relationships that ended. They focused on the opportunities that never arrived. They focused on the acceptance they hoped to receive but never found. While those losses were real and painful, there is another side of the story that deserves attention. There is the strength that developed because of those experiences. There is the character that formed because of those experiences. There is the wisdom that emerged because of those experiences. There is the resilience that was built because of those experiences. Sometimes growth happens so gradually that it becomes difficult to recognize. Day by day, challenge by challenge, disappointment by disappointment, a person changes. Their perspective deepens. Their patience expands. Their understanding grows. Their faith matures. One day they realize they are not the same person they were years earlier. They realize that although they never would have chosen many of their struggles, those struggles shaped qualities they now value deeply. This realization does not erase the pain of the past, but it transforms its meaning. Instead of seeing only rejection, they begin seeing preparation. Instead of seeing only loneliness, they begin seeing development. Instead of seeing only closed doors, they begin seeing redirection. This perspective is not about denying reality. It is about recognizing that difficult experiences can hold purpose even when that purpose is not immediately visible. Consider how many times you survived situations that once seemed impossible. Consider how many moments felt like endings, but eventually became transitions. Consider how many disappointments later revealed opportunities you could not have anticipated. Life often makes more sense looking backward than looking forward. During difficult seasons, we rarely see the complete picture. We see only the immediate challenge. We see only the current pain. We see only the unanswered questions. Yet time has a way of revealing connections that were invisible in the moment. This is one reason faith becomes so important. Faith allows a person to continue moving forward even when complete understanding has not yet arrived. Faith allows hope to survive uncertainty. Faith allows purpose to remain possible even when circumstances appear discouraging. Many individuals who feel like outsiders carry another burden that often remains hidden. They quietly wonder whether they matter. They may never say those words aloud, but the question lingers beneath the surface. They wonder whether their efforts matter. They wonder whether their kindness matters. They wonder whether their sacrifices matter. They wonder whether anyone truly sees the weight they have carried. If you have ever felt that way, there is something you need to hear. Your life matters. Your perseverance matters. Your faith matters. Your kindness matters. The way you continued showing up despite exhaustion matters. The way you continued caring despite disappointment matters. The way you continued believing despite uncertainty matters. These things are not insignificant. In a world that often celebrates visible success, it is easy to overlook the quiet victories that happen every day. Yet many of the most meaningful achievements never receive public recognition. Choosing forgiveness instead of bitterness is a victory. Choosing hope instead of despair is a victory. Choosing compassion after experiencing pain is a victory. Choosing faith during uncertainty is a victory. Some of your greatest victories happened in silence when nobody was watching. Those victories helped shape who you are today. They helped create the strength that continues carrying you forward. There is also something powerful about realizing that not every door is meant to remain open. Some relationships leave because they were only meant for a season. Some opportunities disappear because they were never aligned with your path. Some forms of rejection become protection in ways that are understood only later. At the time, these losses can feel devastating. They can leave wounds. They can leave questions. They can leave deep disappointment. Yet years later, many people look back and realize that some of the things they desperately wanted would have prevented them from becoming the person they were meant to become. This realization requires patience. It requires trust. It requires believing that a closed door is not always a punishment. Sometimes it is preparation. Sometimes it is guidance. Sometimes it is evidence that God sees a larger picture than we can see ourselves. You may not understand every chapter of your journey right now. There may still be unanswered questions. There may still be moments when loneliness appears unexpectedly. There may still be memories of rejection that hurt, yet none of those things have the authority to determine your future. They are experiences, not definitions. They are chapters, not identities. They are events, not destiny. Your destiny is larger than your disappointments. Your future is larger than your fears. Your value is larger than the opinions of people who failed to recognize it. One of the most beautiful truths about personal growth is that healing often begins before a person realizes it. Little by little, the wounds become less powerful. Little by little, hope becomes easier to hold. Little by little, confidence returns. Little by little, a person begins seeing themselves through a kinder and more truthful lens. They begin recognizing qualities that were always present, but often overlooked. They begin appreciating strengths they once dismissed. They begin understanding that being different was never the problem. The problem was believing that different meant less valuable. Different does not mean less valuable. Different does not mean forgotten. Different does not mean abandoned. Different does not mean unworthy. Sometimes different simply means your journey requires experiences that look unlike those of the people around you. The people who have the deepest compassion often travel different roads. The people who possess unusual wisdom often travel different roads. The people who inspire others through their resilience often travel different roads. Their uniqueness was not an obstacle to purpose. It became part of the path toward it. If you have spent years feeling like an outsider, perhaps the time has come to see yourself through a new perspective. Not as someone who failed to belong, but as someone who survived experiences that shaped extraordinary resilience. Not as someone who was forgotten, but as someone who continued growing during hidden seasons. Not as someone who was overlooked, but as someone whose value never depended on recognition in the first place. God has not forgotten you. The difficult seasons do not define you. The lonely chapters do not define you. The disappointments do not define you. What defines you is the strength that remained when circumstances became difficult. What defines you is the faith that survived uncertainty. What defines you is the kindness that endured despite pain. What defines you is the courage that kept moving forward one day at a time. Your story is not over. There are still meaningful connections ahead. There are still moments of joy ahead. There are still opportunities for healing ahead. There are still blessings ahead. There are still reasons to hope. The road may have felt lonely at times, but it has never been meaningless. Every challenge carried lessons. Every struggle carried growth. Every difficult season contributed something to the person you are becoming. And perhaps one day, you will look back and realize that the years you spent feeling like an outsider were also the years that quietly prepared you for a deeper understanding of yourself, a stronger faith, a greater compassion for others, and a future filled with more purpose than you could see at the time. If these reflections brought comfort to your heart and reminded you that your journey still holds meaning, subscribe to the channel and continue receiving messages that encourage faith, healing, personal growth, and hope. You do not have to walk every season alone, and sometimes a single reminder can help you see the strength and purpose that have been within you all along.